Virgin Bitch podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
Pinch yourself if this sounds familiar. You are very good at what you do for a living, but somehow you still feel unfulfilled. Or maybe you're making very good money, but feel disappointed that you're not making a difference. If any of these hit home, you will want to meet our guest, transformational psychology coach, confidence and relationship mentor, and creator of the reclamation method, Tori Jenae. Welcome, Tori, to Virgin Beauty Bitch.
Oh, thank you so much. So honored to be here.
We are honored ourselves to have you. Thank you for doing this. Now,
Yes.
Tori, if someone had told you this, that one day you will be heading your own transformational group coaching program, it's going to be built around your own traumatic life experiences, and you're going to be doing all this while living in Beverly Hills, California. You might have said what?
I would have said there is no way that is possible for someone from where I came from. I'm definitely a self-made woman, and I grew up in a lot of struggle. Both my parents struggled with addiction, and obviously we struggled financially at times really badly. So I had to make some radically different choices in life and put myself through university. I left home at 17. I helped take care of my little brother. Like, there's so many things that made me who I am and made me walk through that fire of transformation. And then over the last 26 years, I've just picked up as many tools as I can, not only to heal myself, but to help other women and some men I work with as well to really heal and transform and turn our deepest pain into our purpose and our wounds into our wisdom. And just, I really believe that no matter where you come from, no matter what's happened to you, you can make a different choice.
So going back to the start of this, you once had the typical 9-to-5 job.
I sure did.
You were doing well. You were a success. So what made you jump off that cliff?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So out of university, I did want to become a therapist, but in the United States, we have to do a lot of training. So it's 6 years of university plus 3,000 hours of training that's very low paid. And because of where I came from, and I just didn't have that opportunity to do that early on. So when I came out of university, I was like, okay, I need to get a job. What can I do that's related to psychology? So I went into human resources, and I was very good at it. By the time I was 30, I was an HR manager for a 7,000 person company. I had tons of direct reports. I was, the quote unquote success. I literally had the house, the husband, the car, the job, all of it. And I was miserable, and I did not understand what was happening. And that was really kind of part of my spiritual awakening of recognizing, like, wow, I'm not living my purpose. Like, even though I've checked all the boxes I'm supposed to check as a woman, this is not making me happy. It's not fulfilling me. And I think we're all a little bit different in what our soul came here to experience and fulfill. But for me, like, that purpose was so deep and so necessary. And my sister had addiction issues as well. And so she suddenly overdosed and she passed away. And that was actually one of the catalysts that, like, my sister didn't even make it till the age of 40. And so that really woke me up because I was terrified to leave that 6-figure job, all, the golden handcuffs, as we say here in the US. And I was so scared to make it. But when she left this planet, I was like, life is short. I cannot waste any more time. And that's when I took the leap and I left. And I remember, like, literally praying, like, saying, I promise God, like, I will leave this job. And I'm not really, like, super religious, but I'm spiritual. But I remember, like, telling the universe, like, I hear you. I get the message. I know I'm not happy. And that sent me on, like, I was kind of on a path of finding more meaning and purpose. But that my sister passing was really the big catalyst.
I think, it sounds really reminiscent from what I've read about your story. And first of all, just really, really sorry to hear about your sister. That sounds incredibly challenging, and really what you've done with it to help others is remarkable. And would you mind sharing with our listeners how that moment and that choice that you decided to make led you to combine Western psychology and Eastern wisdom into your practice?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. Yeah. So I moved to Japan when I was about 19 and I studied Buddhism. So that really made a lot of sense to me. But then I was also at university studying Western psychology. And what I found through my own journey was having a lot of trauma myself. And, that's the tip of the iceberg in my story of the last 11 years of how much loss I experienced. But I really found that in order to heal, we have to heal the mind and the body. And so that required me doing, like, I started doing yoga when I was about 21. I learned all these psychological theories. I learned Buddhism. How do I change my mindset? Because psychology will tell you really what's going on with you, give you self awareness. How do I understand myself? What's happened to me in my past? But it doesn't really tell you how you're supposed to think. How are we, like, what is a new framework if we're not in victim mindset? How are we in an empowered mindset? How do we really let go? How do we stop caring about what people think of us? These are all like life's bigger questions. And so I found that, like, as I went along my path, I was equally studying both Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. And then I found, like, they really need each other because they're two halves of a whole. I can do the healing with the psychology and the understanding and the depth work, but I need that connection to myself, to truth, and a new framework for how to think, how to, like I said, like, who am I really? What do I really think? What are my old patterns, programs, processes? And how do I step into authenticity and releasing all the things that don't work for me? And that's where I really found Eastern wisdom, spirituality, yoga. I've studied Kabbalah. Like, I've been down every road because I wanted to find the deepest answers. And I wanted to be able to work with people from every walk of the world. Like, I have clients from LA, New York, London, and Dubai. So I work with people who are Christian, Muslim, like, you name it, but, like, we really connect them into, like, the core of who they are and stripping away all of that stuff to allow the soul to speak, the mind to heal, and the body to release it all and integrate it. Because our goal is really to bring heaven to earth, like our own version of heaven to earth.
That's fascinating. Heather and I mean, the show is built on some premises of feminine, masculine, yin yang.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the planet, we seem to want to separate these things. And you find it just in your own practice. There are two different energies that you had to bring together yourself. Like, they didn't teach you both of these things together.
No, they're wholly
What is
separate.
up with that? Why do we do that?
I think the mind loves to have things in clean boxes. Like, we're very uncomfortable as humans with the unknown, with the gray, and we really want to keep things clean and separate. It's like we want to know, like, okay, this is Western psychology and this is science and this is spirituality. And I really think they're all the same thing. We're all drops from the same ocean. We're all connected in some way. And the masculine and the feminine exist in all of us. And I get really discouraged sometimes when people talk about, like, I can only be one or the other. But it's like, masculine is the action, the doing, the leading, the giving. Women can do that too. And it doesn't matter your physical body. And feminine is receiving, its creation, its intuition. And, we all need those energies at different times in our lives. And yes, we can lead with one energy or the other, but without that integration of all the parts of ourselves, our masculine and our feminine, I can sit here and completely sit in my feminine and get all these great intuitive ideas. But if I don't have some of that masculine energy to take the action on those ideas, I'm not going to change the world with what came into me, what was given to me.
I think even in, how you've framed your practice with it being, some of our listeners may be unfamiliar with energy psychology, which I think really is that pairing of what you've just discussed there. Can you kind of unpack a little bit more about what that entails, given what you had said around, the Western kind of being understanding your patterns, understanding your traumas and your background, and then the Eastern wisdom being, setting a new framework. Can you kind of walk them through a little bit about what that is with working with you?
Yeah, so I'll try to make it, like, super real life so it's so easy to understand. So ultimately, like, our psychology is all of our past, our programs, our childhood, that kind of stuff. So we look at that through a psychological lens so that you really understand yourself. If you're struggling in a relationship, let's say, well, maybe you have an anxious attachment style. So dating someone, like, you get really amped up and you worry about if they texted you or not. And, you're just like in this complete spin and you don't know why. And you're so frustrated and you think, what's wrong with me? And then we look at it and we say, oh, well, you've got, this is what happened with your mom and your dad. And this is your attachment style. And this is what your fears are. So now I understand it from a psychological lens. And that's great. But what a lot of people experience, they go to years of therapy and their body, their visceral response when someone does not text them or they do not feel loved or they feel that person pulling away is so strong that they can't outthink it. So that's where we have to drop into the body and do the energy work to integrate it. Because I've got to heal the nervous system and the body. The most powerful book on trauma, which I'd already kind of learned but didn't have words for early in life, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He's like the #1 person in the world on trauma. And he really talked about that the mind can process the trauma, but if you don't heal the body at some level, it will repeat because it gets encoded in our nervous system and our safety system. So me being in it, like if I have a lot of trauma, particularly in women, it can show up as perfectionism, imposter syndrome, anxious attachment style, control, all these things that like we just think are like normal or part of being a normal, and they are, but they can also have roots in that healing that trauma. So I really work to help someone understand it psychologically, but drop it physically into the body. So energy psychology actually allows us to get into that state. So we think about it. So like, let's just use the hypothetical because most people have dated like you're in a relationship and someone really triggers you. We get that trigger in the body. And then we use acupressure points, chakra clearing, like lots of different energy things to start grounding that mental work into the body. So that when that happens, when you get that trigger, we all have that visceral feeling of like when we're triggered or we're upset, that starts to calm down. And maybe what used to spin you out for 3 weeks, now it spins you out for 3 days, and then you get down to 3 hours. So that's really how it works in a very like practical. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I appreciate the specifics, like,
Yeah.
also how you get there, but then also either the acupuncture or another one. Do you use like somatic movements in any of your practice? And can you let our listeners know a little bit about what that's like if you do use that type of practice?
Yeah, so I love somatic healing, which is really like just using the body. So soma means the body. Vedic, the Vedic yogic wisdom has a lot about the soma, about if that's what yoga does, is it helps move at the body. So yeah, we use the same acupressure, like basically it's acupoint, like pressure. So we're tapping on the body. We use the chakras, but it's really like this ability to give yourself the exposure to the negative thing and then unwind your nervous system from the reaction. So it's like, think of it as like mild exposure therapy. It'd be like if someone is afraid of spiders and then I have them, looking at a spider while doing this tapping. So that way their nervous system starts to realize like, oh, the spider's over there, I'm still safe. And so with energy psychology, particularly, it's actually approved by the American Psychological Association. It helps us heal trauma, beliefs. And there's another aspect of it that's really powerful, which is a lot of times we have objections to healing and we're not aware of that because they're subconscious drivers, meaning we're not it's like, think of the iceberg. What we're aware of is the top of it that's above the water. And then we have this huge iceberg under the water, which is what we call our subconscious mind. That runs most people say about 90% of our behavior is driven from what's underneath the water, that lower part of the iceberg. So the work that I'm doing is getting into the body to get into reprogramming what's underneath. Like as simple as weight loss. A lot of us don't recognize that there's a part of us that will want to lose weight and there's a part of us that will not want to lose weight. And particularly with women who've had trauma, sometimes weight equals safety. If I'm not attractive to the opposite sex or to whomever may have abused me, I'm safe. And so I actually have to heal those subconscious drivers as well. Or maybe you had a critical mother who always said negative things about your body. And there's a little girl inside the body who wants to be accepted for not being thin. And so we have to work with her to help her get on board with dropping the weight. Because it's called the justice objection. Like my mom didn't love me when I wasn't super skinny. I was just working with a client with this week. And so I'm going to gain weight and hopefully if I can get her to accept me in this form, then I know I'm really loved. And a lot of people don't know that that's actually like a deeper need that's not being met.
We're so complicated.
We really are. We're so complex. Yeah, I know it's hard to put all in these words, but I really look I kind of joke with my clients, I'm highly intuitive. I can read patterns very quickly. I've been doing this, I've been studying people for, like I said, 26 years. I use something called surrogate muscle testing. So I'm not going to even ask you to know it. I'm going to go through tons of questions and I'm going to muscle test and I'm going to see, okay, this is subconsciously true for you. Now we know we need to clear this out because it's a roadblock in the way of your healing.
So when you say muscle test, are you asking them where certain triggers show up for them? Or
So
like, what does a muscle test mean?
So muscle test, if you were in person, I could actually show you. It'd be really cool. But like, I can have you hold out your arm, and if you're lying and I press on your arm, it'll be weak. If it's true, it will be strong. And I use two fingers, and I've done this with very, very large muscular men, and it's very funny. They cannot hold their arm up if they're lying. I used to do it with my friends' kids. Like if they said they didn't hit their sister, I'd be like, put up your arm. They're like, no, no, no. So the body is energetically strong. We can do it with supplements. We can do it with subconscious beliefs. We can do it with all kinds of things. Like the arm will be very strong because, like I said, it's just two fingers. If it's not true, it's a little bouncy. And so I do that because I've been doing this online for, since like 2018. So I do that for the client. I ask permission to test their energy, and then I start doing the energy work with them. So it's a much faster way because I can't see everyone in person unless they're obviously in here in LA. And I've had like massive results with that because people love to say, like, my most common feedback from energy psychology, and there's people around the world who do it, of course, is it's like years of therapy in one session because it's like we're not just getting into your head, we're getting into your nervous system, your soma, your body, your reactionary space.
Well, I really like how you've broken down even things that seem, I don't know, surface level. You have a goal, like let's say it's weight loss, and really what's underneath that frame of where you want your mindset to be. There's so many layers of programming underneath why you want that goal or what's subconsciously holding you back from that goal. So I really love how you've unpacked that. It's so resonant to so many elements of life. So very, very cool. I kind of want to go into the flip side of maybe like an area of growth that people are looking to understand their patterns better and ask you a little bit about the guide that you've authored around 7 steps to manifesting abundance. Would you mind walking us through some of those core principles and kind of what made you bring that to life?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I have the 7 steps to abundance, and then I also have like the confidence codes. So they're kind of blocks to confidence, like the psychological blocks. And for the abundance, it was really because I grew up in lack and not enough. And I really think our society is programmed in this fear of there's not enough money, there's not enough resources, there's not enough to go around, I'm not enough. Like it's so, like Brene Brown's work talks a lot about this within vulnerability as well. And I read like hundreds of manifesting and money mindset books. So and it took that much to like really reprogram myself. Because even when I was like 31 years old, making 6 figures, I still felt like I never had enough. And I would subconsciously find ways to get rid of my money. I would give it to people. I would spend it. I would manifest random bills because I actually didn't feel my nervous system, my body did not feel comfortable having money. And so a lot of women particularly don't recognize that we are new to having money. In the United States, a woman could not have her own bank account without a male cosigner until the 1970s. That means that my mom, because I was born in 78, could not have her own bank account up until I was right before I was born. So women have only really had the opportunity to have, and in credit cards in the United States and in London, because I've looked this up in the UK, till the 80s. We couldn't have our own money. So it's really helping women like reprogram at a deep level. And men have stuff around money too, of course. But I just see this like longer term, almost traumatic, like I guess generational trauma that's been passed down to us. Like it used to be a thing in the UK as your grandmother would give you enough money to escape your husband if he was abusive, and you were supposed to hide the money. I can't remember what it was called, but they give you like kind of this little stipend of like, you hide this, honey, and if he's really, really bad and you need to get away, you take this and you run. And so to think about like that, the mindset that like even our mothers didn't maybe have their own money, or if the, like, I remember my grandmother would make a little bit of money from baking and making cakes and stuff, and then she'd have to give it to my grandfather because he was the one who handled all the money. And then when he passed, everybody had to help her pay the bills because she didn't even know how. Like, I'm one generation removed from that. So I really broke down like the best tips and tools to help someone start reprogramming and relating to money, because we have a relationship to money. And what's fascinating, I've also found psychologically, is whatever our attachment style is, whether it's avoidant, anxious, secure, etc., that also gets attached to money. So some people will avoid it, some people feel anxious around it, some people will be secure with it, but we all have money stuff. One of my mentors actually said that she felt that people had more issues with money than they actually have with sex. So
and
yeah,
it doesn't talk back.
No, we just project all of our stuff onto it. So yeah, it's kind of an ebook. It's like 30 pages long. So I wish I could give some really big tools, but I'll give 3 tips that will help if your listener to just like start unpacking their money stuff. First and foremost, write down on the top of a paper, just say money is, and answer that as many times as you can. Let the good, bad, the ugly, just do a brain dump, and you'll start to see like what, like it'll say like money is power, money is good, money is evil. We'll start to see like what do we really think when it comes to money. And then another exercise I always have clients do is, what were the things that were always said to you about money growing up? Because that will tell you a lot about how your belief systems were created. Like, money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I'm made of money? We can't afford that. We don't have that kind of money. If you're just because your friends have it doesn't mean you can have it. So those core things that our parents say that are really just trying to like manage us and tell us what they can and can't afford start to come into our belief system. Because we have to remember that, like, as children, someone tells us that the Santa Claus is real and the big fat guy's going to come down my chimney and give me stuff, and I'm like, yes, right? And so we forget that we get a lot of these messages at that time, and they get like planted seeds in the garden of our belief system. And so we have to go in and prune. And then the last one I like to do is write down, like, how do I spend, how do I save, and how do I earn money? And get really honest with myself. Like, am I good at saving? How do I feel about myself with saving? Am I stuck in this like I never save enough, or I don't save at all? How do I earn money? Do I feel comfortable asking for money? Do I not want to charge for my services? Will I not ask for a raise? Or am I very good in that place? Because I find that we all have to learn how to reprogram ourselves in each of those: earning, spending, and saving. But take one at a time and choose one area of your life that you want to improve. And like, if you're very uncomfortable spending money, I always make my clients spend a little bit. Like, nope, every week you have to go spend something on yourself. You've got $30,000 in the bank. You're squirreling away tons and tons of money, and you won't spend a dime. Like, go put we're going to spend $25 on something small this week that you want. You're going to go have a different meal, or you're going to do something to like start releasing. And then it's the opposite. If you can't save, you have $0 in the saving, like, okay, every week you got to put $20 away. You can't touch it, because it's like we're reprogramming ourselves through new action. Hopefully that answers your question.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. I don't want to just single you out as a money coach. I mean, you do a lot of heavy lifting for women, like things like divorce and breakups and personal loss. Like, you do a lot of heavy lifting with individuals.
Yes, a lot of trauma work.
Which sounds, yeah, go ahead.
It can be heavy, but I think because I walked through so much on my own, I really have so much love and compassion for it. And I never have any like pity or, because it's like, I know it's like, wow, like this is the thing that, it can break you down or it can break you open. And I think that's why, because I work with women who've gone through breakups and divorce, and like, I really want them to be empowered. And that's a big part of leaving a relationship. Like, even for myself, leaving my, having that dual income, sharing expenses and all that kind of stuff. Like, when I left my marriage, my expenses doubled overnight. So all the things that I learned myself, within myself, like, I had to put into practice very quickly and rebuild a life for myself 100% on my own. And that's a big fear for all of us. Money is survival, and it's an important thing. And I think a lot of us feel bad for wanting it, bad for needing it, bad for not having it. There's so much shame around it that I just want women particularly to feel really empowered, confident in themselves, like get relationships that they want, and not have to choose based on finances. Like, I really feel like if you, as a woman, have your sovereign financial ability, you're never going to be in a job, a place, or a relationship that you don't want to be because you have choice.
Well said.
Well, just building on that, and what Christopher highlighted earlier, at the heart of our show, called The Virgin, the Beauty, and the Bitch, these words have surface level meanings. They also sometimes have shackles for women over time. Sometimes it's shackles that they've broken free of. And we've really come to know these words in totally new ways because of what it means to different people over the span of their life. But underneath the three words is a desire to reimagine feminine. Not for what it was, not for what it is necessarily, but to break it open into what is anew or unlooked at aspects of it. My question to you is, what does feminine mean to you? And how does that contribute to your work?
Yeah, I love that. Feminine to me means the power of creation. Our bodies that literally create life. And in Kabbalah, they talk about this a lot. Like, men are manifestors, but they need the feminine because we're the cup. We hold it. Like, they can, they have their own form of creation, but women really make it happen. And so even when it comes back to money with like the feminine, the World Bank likes to give microloans to women because they create jobs, they take care of children. Men typically in like third world countries will gamble it away. And again, I love men. I'm not bashing on men at all, ever. I have a brother and like all kinds of lovely men in my life. My ex-husband, even, we're still good friends, so I've been very blessed with some wonderful men in my life, for sure. But I definitely see, like, women have the power of creation within us, and we're so much more capable than I think we've known for so long. And I think we're starting to see that. And I even quote the Dalai Lama as saying that the Western woman will be the one that saves the world. And it's just, we bring balance to a world that's been so imbalanced for so long. And so that's what I'm excited to see: more women going to university than ever before, and us rising. And I think that's changing what it means to be a man. But I don't think men need to be less masculine. I'm not a big fan of all this stuff around men not being masculine. I love that masculinity. I love the man who opens the door for you and takes, and like chivalry and all that stuff. I do not want it to die. I just feel like in order for women to rise, I think some people are thinking that men have to step down, and I don't think so. I think it's asking men to show up more with a more emotional availability, and women to show up with more power and balance.
Accepting their own power.
Yeah, exactly. Like, men are good with their power. They're not great with their vulnerability. And women are kind of the opposite. They can be great with their vulnerability, but they're not really great with their power. And even Harvard did long-term studies on this about like how we are relationally. A man typically doesn't want to get married until he feels like all of his ducks are in a row and financially he's able to provide and protect in that way. But women won't put any energy into that. They'll want a relationship. They'll want to get married right away. Like, even if they're, working like as a checkout girl and have no financial ability, they don't even know how to balance, how to like open a checkbook. So, not that we need checkbooks anymore, but it's just kind of a funny saying. So I hope to see us balance that more, that men start to see that they can really be in their divine masculine, this positive masculine that holds and protects and provides, but a great partner in his life will lift up his success, and they can build that together. And that women can see that when they have their financial literacy and they feel confident, even if they don't have a lot of money, if they understand money, they have a good relationship with money, they're not feeling like they're walking into just a relationship to save them, because unfortunately a lot of people get taught that a man is a financial plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and men are conditioned to believe that that's what their purpose is.
Yeah, and what a limiting purpose to have. Like, I don't want any man that I'm with to feel like I'm with him because I need him to take care of me. Like, that wouldn't, I want to be taken care of in certain ways, but I really believe in like this, like positive we each contribute in our own ways, and it can be whatever we want it to be. It doesn't have to be defined by traditional roles or responsibilities.
This is very encouraging, considering we were just talking about your mother and the beliefs and traditions she grew up with, and how she, how she lived her life. And one generation apart, you're completely different from her and her beliefs and the things that she felt were critical to her survival.
Oh,
You
for
are
sure.
completely different. That's just one generation apart.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like my dad came from Mexico. He was one of 11 children. Grew like was born on the dirt floor, like a house with a dirt floor, like really, really like deep poverty, right? And he came to the U.S. and joined the military and got a citizenship and all that kind of stuff. But I think about like one generation away, like I've completely changed that. And then my mom struggled with addiction. She didn't come from much, and so men were a big way in which she survived. She had multiple husbands, so 4 or 5, because there was one before I was born. But like, so she had, men were kind of her plan. So yeah, and I saw my grandmother be kind of, in a relationship too, where she didn't have a lot of financial sovereignty. So I just made, like I said, a lot of radical decisions of how do I take care of myself in a positive way and show up and at least have that financial literacy. And, obviously I was in a marriage for a long time. I built a lot of financial stability within that as well. But even when I left, it was like, okay, I can do this on my own too. I have that confidence.
Mhm.
I love that as a role model, as something for other women to aim at and aim for. I think that's miraculous. So I want to definitely acknowledge that as something that is aspiring for others.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I really feel like even if, like I work with women who want to be stay-at-home moms too. And so we
Hmm.
talk about how do they do that? How do they work with, like I have a client who wants to, she has a big marketing job, but she wants to stay home with her kids for the next 2 years. So we're talking about like her husband can do that financially. How do we put money aside for her? And how does she feel secure in doing that so that she can take that time for her children? Because that's also a beautiful investment. But she's doing it with a lot of like consciousness, which is
Fabulous.
is beautiful.
Mm.
How do we connect people with you?
Oh, well, my website is easiest. It's torijenae.com. So TORIJENAE.com. And then tori.jenae on Instagram. And I love questions, got some freebies that I can send as well.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It has truly been a joy to talk with you and just learn who you are and what you're doing, your personal story and how you broke free of those shackles and you're really living what you practice. It's just beautiful to see.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate you guys having me on.
And you have been listening to
The Virgin
The Beauty.
and the Bitch.
Find us, like us, share us, and if you really love your friends, invite them in.
Oh gosh, thank
It was
you.
wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, you had great questions. So thank you so much. Deep topics too. I think we went all over the place, which I love. Or you know what I mean? From like psychology to like feminine masculine to money. I think those are the ones that really make people think.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's the reason we started this show, is that these are very simple concepts, masculine and feminine. Oh, how easy is that? Virgin, beauty, bitch. How transparent are those? But they're not.
No. And like each of those words is such a shadow in women too. It's like when I did shadow work, I remember I personally had to work with the word bitch because I could
Tell
be
us
very.
about that.
Yeah. So when I was in HR, obviously I was a boss. I had to be very direct. I had to, tell older white men what to do sometimes. They didn't like that. And I heard through the grapevine that I had been, people would like say I was the ice queen or I was a bitch and all these kinds of things. And it really bothered me because I'm actually kind of like this warm, loving person. And then I was like, okay, like I've got to, like, that's the shadow, which is the shadows are the parts of ourselves that we kind of disown and we think they're bad. And so I did a lot of work to like reclaim that for myself and be like, okay, like I can be a bitch, and that's okay, because she has boundaries and she's direct, and she can stand up in a boardroom and tell someone twice her age what they need to do because she knows she's right. And so it was like, each of those, like, beauty is also another thing. If you're attractive, people think a certain thing about you, and if you're not attractive, like, we fear whether we're attractive enough or we're not attractive. Or like a good friend of mine wrote a book. She lives in the UK, and she wanted to get on more talk shows, and she's really beautiful, and they're like, yeah, people are going to think you're stupid. That's what her PR person told her, is because she's very attractive, she grew up wealthy. And I was just like, wow, like, she literally got her PR people told her to stick to like more audio and stuff so people won't see her, because they'll have an idea of who she is based on what she looks like. And then Virgin's a whole other loaded one. So yeah, these are all like really, really great, deep concepts. How do you two help people?
So actually, we are now building a structure, foundation, a program based around the bitch. And nice. It is about exactly the transition you had to understand within yourself in how you act, how you present yourself, and what it is you need to do. And in contrast to how others view you because you have to act that way. Like they call you a bitch when you're being self-confident, or et cetera, et cetera. So we're building a program to have the understanding that women understand this, this contrast.
Yeah.
Right? And to own that part of themselves.